Fantastico, perfetto. I ragazzi sono qui. Buongiorno. A posto? We are in Feudo di Mezzo, the bottom part, Sottana, where we are tying up the vines. And you see, this year we have a lot of vegetation, and this is actually the second time we're running through the vineyard. And I think in September we will need another time before we will have everything perfectly, let's say, under control. The vegetation is great. The vines look fine. The leaves, they're crunchy. They're green. They have a really great aspect. But even here we had some problems. The vintage is never really easy, and we had some damage of hail a few weeks ago with the you see the berries here. They are a little bit damaged from some hail in the middle of the rain 2 weeks ago. But that's easy for us to pick out and to eliminate when we do the selecting in the cellar. Look here, this vine has an infection. You see the leaves. This is it's called mal de l'esca. It's a disease that gradually dries out the vine, and what we do here, we tend to cut either with a knife. We cut this the external part, the bark, and until here we touch the wood, and so the vine tends to bleed between brackets and regenerates the internal lymph, the juice, so that it regenerates and can recover. It's not always the case, so you have to be very careful. You cannot touch the vines too much. I need to disinfect the knife afterwards, because if I would cut from this vine, the other vine, this could mean that the disease goes over into the other vines. So this is something to be careful about. But every year you have one vine or another. It's not too much this year because we have a balanced year, but it also depends on the areas. This is one of the lowest located vineyards, the Feudo di Mezzo Sottana. Let's go now to Barbabecchi, which is one of the highest ones at 890 meters elevation. This road separates two contradas. To the right we've got Feudo di Mezzo, and to the left we have Arcuria. So in a while we will pass the vineyards of Alberto Aiello, Gracchi estate. So we're gradually driving up towards the village of Passo Pisciaro. It's a nice day for cycling. So to the right there's the winery of Alberto Aiello, Gracchi winery, and to the left are all or most of the vineyards of Alberto. This is the Arcuria Contrada. So we will be driving up on one of the highest locations for vineyards in this northern valley, which is Barbabecchi. This is where our new house and the cellar, the warehouse at least, will be. It's the entrance. It's this part of debris from digging out the let's say the crater to build the underground warehouse. So right now we're driving up to this is Monte Dolce to reach the Quota Mille, the high road where Barbabecchi vineyard is located. Buongiorno!
Buongiorno.
So Here we are at the high road. It's called the Quota Mille, and we're getting closer to Barbabecchi. Here on the left-hand side, this is Barbabecchi. You can see the vineyards higher up. It's all terraced, which goes all the way up where the limit of the vineyard is, and there's no more vineyards up there. You can see the olive trees up there. That's where the vineyard stops. So we're at Barbabecchi in, let's say, the midsection where we planted the new vines this year or this winter, where we have a little bit less vegetation than we thought we would, and because we had a small insect on the vines, where we did a few treatments with sulfur in order to get rid of this problem, which slowed down the vegetation. It was eating the germs, and then the vines didn't grow well. So right now we will be doing with a how and some work around the vines, so that we can give them water through the driest period of the year, from let's say right now mid of July until September, when the autumn rain falls, and we'll come back. See, this is really beautiful area with the terraces, the old terraces, which we had to rebuild, and because many of them dropped over the winter period. And here we are at the limit of viticulture, and you see that there are no more terraces up there, and the viticulture in this area stopped around 900 meters elevation in northern valley. So the panorama is really stunning. So where we are here in Barbabecchi, the bottom part of Barbabecchi below the street is an area called Rampante, where you see then a new plantation that is Planeta, and to the right it's one of the Chardonnay plots of Passo Picciaro winery. You have the splendid view of the Nebrodi with this cone Moyo in the bottom, which is actually, it's quite impressive. It's really incredible. So with the steep terraces here at Barbabecchi, we have to have a higher density plantation, because you cannot get in with a tractor because of the inclination of this contrada. So the vines, they were planted before the First World War. They're not very thick and not very big because of the rocky soil, but they are, as you see, they're very healthy, especially this year. You see this incredible green. You feel the leaves. They are absolutely, they're crunchy. You know. So what we've done since the day I started, and I never really wanted to trim the apex, this part, because it's the antenna of the vine which grows and then which goes to cosmic elements and attracts also the energy. And so I prefer to not touch that. Either we link them, like here, this is done, or this goes in an organic way. One vine touches the other. But what we try to do is make like a tunnel and link both of them together. So this we will link to, when it's a little bit longer, to this vine, so that they both they get together, and they make like bridges from one vine to the other, so that at least we can pass through for work, but we don't have to cut the apex, because when cutting them, the vine senses this in a very strong way, especially in July and August, as it's like a scar, and it's a shock. And when there's no water, like July, August, and the vines, they need to be left, let's say, in a very balanced way. They cannot be shocked, because otherwise they shut down for 1.5 months in photosynthesis, and they will make a lot of vegetation, but there's little energy that goes into the fruit, which this year is beautiful, honestly. If you look at the clusters, they're open, spargolo, it's called in Italian. So it's not very closed, and so there's space also to grow. So it's absolutely beautifully balanced, and not very much grapes, and so the quantity is naturally balanced. The clusters are open knit, and so they're less subject for mildew. and powdery mildew. So this looks like a potentially very good vintage, and potentially maybe great, hopefully. We'll see. Let's say harvest and Mother Nature will tell that, and the rest is up to us to make the best out of it afterwards. So you look at the vines. A classic Albarello is always a bit more complex to manage in terms of canopy management. You see the leaves, either you open everything, which we don't want to do. We do this in 3 stages. This has been done early on, and a few days ago we did the second part, and so we tied up the other ends. We do this with raffia, it's called. It's natural. This is not plastic. And then we have to probably come back again, either to link the leaves, but it is much more elaborate to do this. On metal wires, the vines, they grow into these cages, and it's called for, let's say, half the stretch and half the length, and the rest you have to put into the cage of the wires. Here you always have to be very careful. So in September, the first thing we do when the temperatures drop down again, we come back in all the vineyards and redo the canopy management, and then we take all the leaves away. I will show this now, but I'm not supposed to do this. But you take then everything away in September, like this. It is also so that everything is absolutely clean and clear. We take away maybe the clusters that touch and that are excessive, and so everything ripens perfectly, is exposed to fresh air. Like now, it needs to be protected from possible warm air that just hits the clusters, that might burn the skins, and therefore also you will lose the flavors on the wine. So Albarello is beautiful. You can grow high density on tiny terraces, but obviously it has its limitations in canopy management, which can be managed much better on wires. Here it is much more complex and complicated. So it's beautiful also architecturally, and when you see the Albarellos with the shoulders, it's apparently it all looks quirky and chaotic, but it's not actually. It has a perfect line. There is a design in planting these vines, but when they're old, they're great. It's really nice to see. See, the clusters are relatively long of Nerello. And so the bottom part, this, let's say 2 centimeters, is a small opening here before or right after the color change. And when we come back in September for the leaves and to let's say open up the vines for the autumn rains for ventilation, we also cut these tips because they always have 2 points of sugar less compared to the upper parts, the shoulders, which are more concentrated. So this we always take away, and we only do this for magma in this vineyard, because it's like it's a monk's job, and it takes a lot of time and effort, and you just cannot do this physically and time-wise for all the vineyards. But at this level, where maturation is it's absolutely pushed to its limit, and where you can reach greatness, but you have to give Mother Nature, I think, a hand to achieve this kind of excellence in wine and in density and overall quality. So here we push a little bit the limits of what you can physically do with a vine and with the grapes to achieve absolute perfection and maturity. An important aspect that many times remains in the background or is little discussed is the polyculture. I'm not a big fan of having, let's say, a discussion on seeing vines or growing vines in a forest. I don't think that's the place for vine growing. But I do see the benefits of polyculture, cross-pollination. Like here, for example, we have cherry trees. There are nuts. They need to be obviously cared about, otherwise the trees they go so big that they dominate the vines, and the vines they will suffer. But a little bit of everything where there's a balance between nature. For example, the ginestra, with the yellow flowers, is something that doesn't have any fruit. It's economically not an interesting plant, but it does in terms of, again, cross-pollination and also the beauty. It's a beautiful color, and a month ago you would see the violet flowers. There are a few of them left on the stone walls. And you know, this sense of color, contrast, and it's so beautiful in simple words. It makes you smile, and I think that's also an aspect in a wine. You know, when you feel something and it's balanced, it has a presence. Maybe it brings a memory, and it makes you smile. It's something very, very important. And I feel also this polyculture is something that, at least for me personally, it makes me smile. It brings me joy, instead of seeing, let's say, one unique vegetation. It's a little bit more, I don't know, it doesn't give me the same feeling.